Hey, what's your self-talk? Jabari is here from What's Your Self-Talk podcast. And listen, I want you to download Anchor right now. Because chances are you're listening to this and you're saying, I got some things I want to share. I have some things that I've wanted to put in a podcast form. Here's the opportunity. Anchor is free. You can do it from your phone and you can be on all the different podcast stations all in one app. Okay. So what I need you to do is stop waiting. Stop waiting for the perfect time. Analysis paralysis. Do it now. You'll thank me later. What's your self-talk? Hey, what's your self-talk? We on another episode with What's Your Self-Talk podcast with Jabari. And remember, my goal for this podcast is I always bring you that question, what's your self-talk? And bring challenging ideas and thought that's going to help you grow your potential. So on today's podcast, I want to talk about something that's really dear to my heart and probably what's going on in America today. And it's about being a black male. Now, I talked about this several times on my live, and this stemmed from a conversation I had with a teacher of mine, and she is running a program called Brain, Mind, and Destiny. And actually, it's her own business that she started. Now, how it started, if you've been listening to my podcast, is I had one that was called My Solution to Overcome a Poverty Mindset. And when she seen that release, it really struck some up inside of her, and something that she's been praying about, just because that conversation has not been talked about much, and specifically about black males. And so first, before I released any of my podcasts, I actually had a live that was talking about it, got some feedback from some of the people, and she was one of those who viewed it, and instantly she messaged me and she said she wanted to talk. And so Mrs. Caldwell has been someone who's been very involved into a lot of kids' lives. She's very passionate about education. And so in high school, she was someone who really poured into me, helped me see a black family who would husband, wife, and a son. And to be able to experience that and to be able to see that, for me specifically, growing up in a divorced household, it was a little bit different. So she was very open. Her husband was very open. So it was just an exposure to just a different lifestyle. And also for someone who wanted to help me go to college. And so the program was there to help give education on how to get into college, how to prepare your resumes, visit colleges, and just any and everything. And to this was in 2006, so well over 10 years, this lady has still poured out into many students' lives. So when she seen that recording and seen where I was at with my family, having my son and my wife, that really was very something she admired. It was because sometimes it's difficult, I think, being a black male, because you have so many different decisions that you have to make, and you have so many things that are going on inside your head, and it's hard to be able to discuss that with certain people, because honestly, sometimes and I'll say we as in black males, see others who have not handled, the certain situations. Like, we have things going on right now with, the George Floyd. But when I just think back to something that Will Smith said, it really kind of hit it on the nail. He said, racism is always been there. It's now just being filmed. And reality is now a lot of these things that has always happened behind the scenes are being caught on camera. And as I looked at all the things that were happening in the news, and a lot of my friends starting to post asking for their friends and for other race to be able to start speaking up and talking, and them being able to share some of their experiences, I understood why. I understood the meaning, and which basically brought me to today. So going back to brain, mind, and destiny, when I was having that conversation with Miss Caldwell, she was joyful to see one of her students that she poured a lot of her heart, mind, and soul into, just like she do every student, to be able to see them doing well and being specifically a black male. Because for us, the role of a male is to be responsible, to be able to have it together, to be able to protect, provide for their family. And sometimes when you don't see the things that are recorded, we have to go on without saying things. We have to press past situations that nobody knows about and make it seem like everything is okay. Like, I was having a conversation with a real good friend of mine, and he was opening a new business. And, he was just telling me a lot of tough conversations he had to have with people that were, calling him, the N-word, just because, they didn't really want him to start his business, get it up and running. And I can just recall back in my mind just a lot of things that I just overlooked. I didn't speak about. I didn't say anything. And for me, I am a very positive person, so I always spin things into a positive experience. And two, I am a very spiritually rooted person, and so I always look to forgive as I'm called to do. But I do think what happens is when we do that, we do miss the importance of talking about it and allowing others to understand what exactly is going on in our mind and what are the things we actually have to forgive. And so I want to really just touch bases on now, as I got older and I kind of just have gotten to a point in my life where now I have a family that is growing, and the things I have to be prepared for, and what are the action steps that I'm doing to not only make a difference in my life, but just to make an example for the black community and being a black male. So first, I now understand more than I ever have when it comes to just racism and what happens when we speak up and why we speak up. And me specifically, when I see these situations, I always sit back and say, okay, what is it that I can do and how can I help? Because I think everybody has a different way and a different approach to handling these situations. And some of it is by protesting. Some of it is by maybe making documentary. Some of it is by making music. Some of it is by helping the people in that community. And for me, it is where I'm at is continuing to educate myself and taking action to build something up. And when I mean build, I'm meaning something as along the lines of business. One of the best things that I believe that we can do just as individuals, and even specifically as a black culture, is to start to build our own and have ownership over things. Because when you have ownership over things, then you can be able to bring in others who are just like you and who are not, but who can also learn from you. And that is powerful within itself. When we look at somebody like Martin Luther King, who had a very big impact, and him being a black role model, people, if he was still alive today, will want to go to him and want to learn from him and want to understand his ways and how to handle a lot of these situations we're going through today. But the fact that he's a black male and he is someone who is looked up to, well, I think any male want to be looked up to. And I think specifically because of so much that any black man have to go through, the fact that they can be looked up to and they can be admired, they can be a leader for so many people, and even those who look just like them. It's a very big thing among the black community, because that is rare to see. Like me and my wife, we are fortunate enough to have a lot of real estate property, and we see families sometimes who are missing dads. We see moms who are doing the absolute best they can do to be able to raise their sons. And sometimes it just get out of hand, and I observe that, and I'm like, they have no leadership in their life. They don't know what to do but to go to the streets or hang out with their friends or just to get in trouble, because that's all they see. And the biggest thing for me is, like, I want to get in that position where my name and what I'm doing, it means enough for them to say, hey, I want you to join what I'm building, but I want you to get yourself together. I want you to get your mindset. And so that is a journey for me, but that is one of the things that I believe that's going to make a big impact, because when I can start building up the businesses, and I can be able to train some of these males and females who want to build for themselves and who will be able to provide for their family in a legitimate way, that is what start changing the shift of the self-awareness, like I talked about last week, and even who they believe they can be. And when they see their own kind doing those type of things, and it's the very opposite from what they've always seen, then that is what started to create a trend among us black males. And then you start to see, hey, I can own a business, I can own real estate, I can run a business, I can be good in sales, I can be a doctor, I can be a lawyer, whatever those things are. When they see that, then they get encouraged to start looking into that direction. So for me, it is building up the things that I have and the things that I acquire, so that I can be able to show others you can do this just as well. Just because I'm doing it does not make me any better. I'm just someone who believed in what God has given me and listen to the gift and know that he will bless me with it. So, and that is the biggest thing, is to put into action, because that gives them exposure. It give me exposure to continue to seek out what more can I be able to do to be able to show them, but it gives them exposure to see what's even possible. It's so crazy to me. I was listening to a interview, and it was a guy that lived in one part of town, and it was in Houston, Texas. I was Chameleon, actually, now I think about it. So I'm from Houston, Texas. Chameleon is a rapper, but now he's went into doing business in Houston. I believe he's in real estate as well, in a construction company. And he was talking about one of his friends that was at one side of Houston, and he was just like, he'd never been out of that community, outside of that city. Now, Houston is the 4th largest city in the United States. And for his buddy to not feel comfortable to leave outside of his just a small community, it's mind-blowing, because you got to think about how much is outside of your community. How much can you be exposed to? How much can you be able to see? Sometimes I think it's powerful to be able to see something with your eyes more than just seeing it on TV. And so that's just the biggest thing. Like, exposure is so huge. And when we realize the importance of exposure and how it can open up our creativity and our brains to see what we can do, and it's that thing that I want to bring to our black males and our black families and our black communities. And that's it. That is how I view what is going on, and what is my quest to be able to make a difference in this world. So I thank you for taking out the time to listen. And I really want to know your input. What is some of the things you struggle with when you think about what are some of the things you do, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, it does not matter. I believe we need to start these conversations and start working together and seeing if somebody does struggle, stop telling them to go do that and walk with them. What we need to do is walk alongside each other and understand that we can change together, but we can only do that once we humble ourselves. And I do think specifically it does talk with us black men to be able to trust each other, to work with each other, to forgive each other more. Because it's only then will we be able to make an impact in a way where we can start building things together and not against each other. So, hey, I thank you for watching this. I thank you for listening. I'm used to doing videos, so I thank you for listening to this podcast. It is something that's dear to me, and I know What's Your Self-Talk on this one today is just really just being exposed to the understanding of not only my mind and why I do these things, why I want to educate others on just my mindset and how I handle these situations, but how I want you to start thinking about it, even if it's something that you never thought about, but you now saying, okay, I need to do something. So now you know how I view it, and now you know all the steps and everything I'm doing is going to always be in line with building something in the form of a business to help others to be able to have an impact, and to show them that they can do it as well. Because that is my gift, and I'm grateful for that, and that's who God called me to be. So, hey, thank you for listening to another episode of What's Your Self-Talk, and I look to hear your comments. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, and make sure you share this with somebody. And, hey, reach out to me. Let me know what you think about our podcast, and we'll keep growing, we'll keep learning, and we'll keep asking that question, what's your self-talk? All right, talk to you soon.